and work management using SharePoint webinar. We're really excited that you were able to join us this afternoon. And my name's Chantal, and I'll be your host today for the webinar. So if you have any questions or you would like to make a comment, please feel free to use the question in the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the webinar as we're going through. So we want to make it as interesting as possible, so make sure you participate. Today we have Hammad Arif speaking for us today, and he's a technical consultant and trainer and pre-sale specialist for Microsoft SharePoint and Project Server, and he's done this for more than 7 years. He's been a guest speaker at Microsoft-sponsored SharePoint and EPM events across the world. Currently, Hammad is EPM Partners State Manager and Senior Consultant for ACT and provides business and technology consulting to help organizations make the most of their EPM tools offered by Microsoft. So we're delighted to have Hammad with us today to speak for us. And in this webinar, as you know, we'll be discussing how SharePoint can be used to create a modern project management information system that manages programs, projects, documentation, and processes in an efficient and effective way. And so without further ado, I'd like to welcome Hammad to our webinar today, and we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you very much, Chantal, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm using SharePoint and doing consulting around it for, as Chantal said, for around 7 years now. But in the last 3 or 4 years, I have tended to specialize more around project management area. And then in Microsoft suite of project management tools, Microsoft Project Server, which I typically use to solve my customer problems. But during that time, I realized that most of these small and medium-sized customers can benefit from SharePoint alone and lots of project these tools. And this is how SharePoint can help you in effectively managing your project portfolio and work management needs. Now, I have made an assumption that most of us already know about SharePoint. Most of us have used it already, but probably it's good to have some numbers attached to that assumption. So there's a quick poll in front of your screen. Feel free to use your poll buttons and let us know if you have used this tool before, if you really use it on a daily basis, or for some of our customers who are from different planets, you can choose the last option as well.
So that's great, Hammad. We're getting some responses through now. Thank you, everyone. Then want to add their votes. That's it. Thanks, everybody. That's fantastic. So I'm just going to close that poll now, and let's see what the responses are. Okay, so we've got 37% of it is the de facto PM tools. Sorry, it is the de facto project management tools used in my organisation. So that's the highest selection there. We have Hammad. Next up, we use it for document management or collaboration only. We've got 33% that use it for that. 19% we don't have SharePoint deployed in our organisation, and 11% is for lightweight project management only. So thanks everybody for your feedback there. What do you think about that, Hammad?
I was hoping there would be some people from a different planet, but it seems no. Everyone knows about SharePoint. It's pretty encouraging to see that at least 1/3 of you use it as your de facto project management tool. I'm going to show you some stuff which is available out of the box in SharePoint, but in addition, I will also show you some of the stuff which could be achieved with a little bit of customization, so it may help you in understanding how you can enhance your project management experience using SharePoint. And then another 1/3 of you use it for document management, which I think is quite a core pillar of project management anyway, so probably it will also give you some ideas about how document management could be extended into the realm of project management as well. I don't have too many slides today, so we'll just do this one slide and then jump to the demonstration where you will see a SharePoint-based project management system in action. So the question is, why should we use SharePoint for work management in the first place? And by work, I mean all sort of project management related work, be it projects, programs, portfolios, smaller unconventional projects as well. If you know Microsoft Office, and who doesn't, you probably already know 50% of SharePoint functionality. So there's a very short learning curve. Most of people know how to work with lists in SharePoint. Most of them know how to work on their documents in Microsoft Word, Office, etc. And then project management is also largely about team collaboration, not the way the collaborations happen between me and Chantal, as you can see on your screen, but the real collaboration where people share and exchange ideas, report on tasks, and have common discussions around the project. SharePoint is also available as an offering on Office 365. That means that there's a very low cost of entry and a minimal time required to set it up. If you decide to use SharePoint as your project management tool today, you could literally have it in minutes to have a system up and running. Of course, this will also require some thoughts around how your project management processes would be mapped to that, and this is where organizations like EPM partners can help you. But the tool itself would be available for your use. Those of you who are more experienced project managers would have used Microsoft Project Professional for their scheduling needs. And the good news is that Project Professional works very well along with Microsoft SharePoint, and the combination of the two products give you a very rich functional set, which we're going to see in our demonstration. And then if you really have advanced project management needs, if you have a larger organization, you want to do more than project and portfolio management, but you want to really get into the portfolio optimization scenarios or advanced business intelligence, there's a project server, and this could really be a transitional step for you. So you could start with SharePoint alone, make it enhanced experience by using Project Pro, and then you could really graduate to Project Server to have a full-fledged enterprise project management experience. And then as your project management processes grow, or as you start learning about SharePoint, the great thing I really love about this tool is that you could always enhance it, and you could do it just for yourself. It's pretty easy to be customized and configured by an end user. So the tool will grow with you. It will not make you feel stagnant at a particular feature set. I think this makes a compelling case for SharePoint to be used as a work management tool. Let's jump to the demonstration, and then I'll show you how these ideas could really be put into the action. What you are seeing on your screen is a typical SharePoint site homepage. Now, in this particular case, this is Project Server site homepage, but that's not the product I want to talk about today. I really want to show you just SharePoint related features, that how SharePoint can help you with project management. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start showing you the project initiation and planning related features. We will mostly see how SharePoint task lists can be used as a project, as a probably lightweight project schedule, document management, risks and issues, and how then Project Pro can come into the picture. So on this system, I will create a new project, and by that I'm going to start the initiation and planning process. So I have clicked the button saying creating new project, and we will call, let me call it webinar project, just to make it easy to remember. Now, on the option of selecting a template, I could pick a project site. This is a built-in feature of Microsoft SharePoint, which gives you a site already customized and configured for project management related features, but it's very lightweight in my opinion. You could start with that, or for my demonstration, I have created a customized website with some additional project management features. So I'm going to base my project on this template, which is SharePoint site template version 3. This is security is also controllable, so you could decide who is going to access your project, but I'm going to leave it for default settings for now, and I'll say let's create a new project. This would take a while, about 30 seconds or so. But the idea is that you could have different templates for different kind of projects. So you could say that my larger or more complex project will follow a different site templates, whereas the smaller projects could probably be based on SharePoint default template. Well, the system performed well. I was expecting around 30 seconds, but I probably did it quicker than that. So I've got a project site, and my project site has come with a built-in project timeline, and this is telling me that my project should be starting in May and finishing in July. It's pretty sure I've been finished last month already. So I'm already late. 31 of my tasks are already late, and my project closure was due 30 days ago. That was July the 14th. Then, along with my project timeline, I'm getting some documents. These are document templates for me to get going. So if I want to create a project initiation form or a project management plan, I have something to get a start with rather than starting from a blank slate altogether. Now, first thing I want to do is to create a high-level project schedule or my list of tasks which I want to perform on my project. And I have a link called task which will give me this ability. Now, this list is a typical SharePoint list, and from the poll I've got the idea that at least 80% of you are already aware what SharePoint lists are. And you can see a project plan is already there for me created. Now, this information is coming in from a project template. You could start with a blank slate if you want to, but in this particular case, I prefer to show you a project plan created already. Now, this has some project professional-like features. So as you could see that this is a start date and end date. But in addition, it also has a predecessors column. So I could say that creating a high-level cost estimate could only be done when project management setup is completed. So I could create those predecessors within my SharePoint task list itself. So it's really, it's not a regular run-of-the-mill SharePoint list. It has some enhanced features like predecessors. In addition, it has a very fancy timeline. So I could see on top that what are the approximate start date and end dates for each of my project phases, and then I could add more tasks or to this timeline if I want to. So let's say I believe that my solution architecture is a very important activity. This should be part of the timeline. I could click that, and I will add this to the timeline. As you can see, the solution architecture is happening somewhere in the middle of June for this project. Now, how about editing this list? That, of course, a built-in template is definitely not going to serve all my scheduling needs. So it's pretty easy. All I need to do is to click this edit button. And this will open an Excel-like grid for me where I could add more information, or I could also delete and edit existing information. So in my case, for example, if I believe that training would not be required in my project, I can just select this list, select this task, press the delete button, and the task is gone. Similarly, I believe that performing product verification would be dependent on implementation checklist. So I could create a predecessor. I could even create multiple predecessors if I want to. So I'm saying that this is based on functional specs and implementation checklist. So I could have more than one predecessors for a task. I could also do project professional-like indentation. So I could, for example, create a task saying final handover, but then I want this task to be an independent task and not part of the change management, and I could outdent this task. So this task will become independent from change management. So this is one way to do my project scheduling, but it's not necessary for me to follow the template altogether. I could delete this entire list altogether, everything, and then create from the blank template this is in fact how it goes in your default out-of-the-box SharePoint template.
Okay, that's really cool, Hammad. Now, I like to create my task lists in Excel. Is there a functionality where I can import my task list from Excel into the SharePoint?
Absolutely. We know Excel is the #1 tool used by people for almost everything. They use it for business intelligence, they use it for project management, for everything else where data needs to be in an organized fashion. This is an Excel sheet on my screen right now, and I'll create some tasks over here. I'll say, I'm not going to be very creative, so I'll say task 1, 2, and 3. And then it's up to me what columns I want to push in from Excel to SharePoint. I'll just put the start date and end date. Or I could leave it blank for some tasks, so I'll put it for one task, but not for every single task. I'm saying this task will start from today, and it's going to finish in about a week. And I still don't know the dates for next 2 tasks, which is absolutely fine. I don't need to know those. So I have copied this stuff from those tasks, came right at the end of my project plan, or I could even insert my task in the middle of my project plan. And I'm pressing the paste button, and as you could see, my tasks have been pasted. Also, you would notice that I used a date format which only included numbers, but SharePoint automatically understood that and changed it to August 20, which is probably more easier for a project manager to really focus on what tasks are there in the near future. Another commonly required scheduling feature is the Gantt chart view, which is available in this tool. I'll just say stop editing, so I'm done with my editing, but then I want to see how these tasks are going to look on the Gantt chart. And here you go. You could see that all these tasks are available in a Gantt chart-like view, and if you have proper predecessors defined and the dates are created accordingly, you will see your full project timeline over here. Now you would notice that despite the fact that I have created dependencies between tasks, not all of the dates actually roll up to that. So for example, if I edit my project again, and change the date for one of my tasks, say from May 27th to August 13th. This ideally should have changed the dates for my entire summary task, which is project management setup. Not only that, but this should also have delayed the task called create high-level cost estimate, because it is dependent on project management setup. But none of that has happened. Now this may be desirable in some small projects. I have come across project managers who like to work in a mode called manually scheduled tasks, where they don't really want dates of a particular task to be changed based on the dates of other tasks, and they are happy doing this manually. But in case of advanced, bigger schedules, if you are an experienced project manager, you may want to happen that automatically. And this is where SharePoint task lists are not going to help you, but then you have Project Professional to help you. Now this is an optional tool. If you want to do advanced scheduling, you can do it through Project Professional, and this would still be utilizable in SharePoint. Let me show you how, but remember this is an optional one. So I'm done with my task editing here, but then one of my options is to open the same project in Project Professional, and clicking that button will take me to Project Professional, and as you could see, Project Professional is now downloading a SharePoint task list. So Project Professional knows how to talk to SharePoint task list, and it is reading all those list items. It is even saying that there's a conflict on a particular task. We will ignore it for now. And this is about project plan with 40 tasks, and it took about 10 seconds. So you could imagine for very, very large projects, projects having thousands of tasks, this may not be a very feasible approach, but for smaller projects, it is certainly doable. Now, I will switch my role to an experienced project manager who is really into project professional, who likes to schedule his tasks in automatic scheduling mode, who likes to create dependencies, who likes to do create constraints, etc. So I have changed all my tasks to schedule mode. I will link all my tasks together. Unfortunately, project is crashed. Not a big surprise, it happens, but I'll just restart my project professional to continue my job. So I'll just open project professional again. And one more time. This should hopefully work this time.
It's always at the most inconvenient times, isn't it?
Yeah, these are pretty newish features in SharePoint 2013, so occasionally you see your project being crashed. Okay, I won't attempt defining predecessors this time, but I'll still make these tasks auto-scheduled. And then I'll change the dates of my tasks here, and we will see that this is going to impact my summary tasks. So let's say if I change the duration from 57 days to 80 days, this has changed the date, finish date for this particular task, but it has also changed the dates for my summary task right to the entire project level. At this moment, if I save my project, these dates are going to push back to SharePoint. So I took advantage of all the advanced SharePoint, advanced project management capabilities of Project Pro, and then I'm pushing it back to SharePoint so that I could still use the convenience of SharePoint task list for editing my tasks. So it will take again about 10 to 15 seconds this time, if it doesn't crash. Okay, so update is done, and if I go back to my task list and refresh the page, you can see my timeline has changed. The timeline itself has been pushed from Project Pro, but in addition to that, my due date for project has changed, and this time instead of August, my project is finishing in 26th of December. So you could do your advanced scheduling in Project Pro, push it back to SharePoint task list, and all your constraints will be respected here. But remember, you could always edit this list again in SharePoint and break those constraints if you want to. So this was about initiation and planning stage. Next thing I want to show you is about how you can create more project artifacts in addition to the task list. So as you could see, that in my document library, there are some pre-created documents for me. I could use them as my starting point, and then I could also create and upload different documents. I'm not going to go into details of that, assuming a huge majority of you is already aware of document management features of SharePoint. But then project management is not only about documents. There are more artifacts related to that. I could create, for example, a list of all the risks that I'm anticipating at this moment. So let me show you how can I create a new risk in my project site. So my risk, for example, is that government change. I'm just assuming government will change soon. It's not going to happen in real world, hopefully. But I'm saying government will change, and that could impact stakeholder approval. Say one of our stakeholders is a senior member in government. This is an active risk. I could assign it to a person. For this moment. For now, I'll just assign it to myself. This is a stakeholder-related risk. At this moment, the impact of this would be quite severe, and there's a good likelihood that this may actually happen. I will mention my mitigation plan. Now remember, this is a SharePoint form. You could always customize those fields. You could change this according to your risk management methodology. So rather than calling it mitigation action description, you could call it mitigation plan. You could have 5 fields instead of 1 field over here. And my mitigation is that I'll change that stakeholder. In fact, I'll replace him with a different person. Now, the risk might still occur, but the likelihood, the risk impact would still be significant if that happens, but the likelihood is very rare that my new stakeholder would also be, his approval would also be difficult to obtain after government change. So this is my risks, and I saved it. And because of that, a new risk has been created, and as you could see, that although my initial inherent rating for this risk is very high, but after my mitigation, its rating has been downgraded to medium. And this rating is being decided based on the risk matrix. This is pretty much aligned with ISO standard of risk management, but some organizations use a different tailored version of that, and it is again pretty easy to do in SharePoint. Now, I have created a project schedule in terms of a task list, and I want to specify that some of my tasks are related to the risk list which I have created. So, for example, in my project plan, I have a task called creating stakeholder assessment, and I want to specify that this particular task has a risk associated to that. And this is a really cool feature of SharePoint 2013. It wasn't there in SharePoint 2010, that now you can link one project artifact to one or more other project artifacts. So I could say that this is my task, creating stakeholder assessment, and I want to relate it with one of my other project artifacts. This could be a document, this could be a risk, this could be a change request, any of the project artifact which is created in the system. Here, I will say that I want to associate this with a risk. And my risk is that government change, this could impact stakeholder approval. Now, we can see that this particular task has a risk associated to that. But in addition to that, I also want to link a document to this particular task. So I could add as many items as I want to. So I'll say that my project initiation form is also related to this particular task over here. Not only this is a better organization of all your artifacts where they are all linked together, but later in this demo, we will see that how we can create customized reports which will give you a holistic view of all these interdependent project artifacts together in the same screen. The good news is if you are doing your program management and are relating and are managing multiple projects together which are related, you could also link an artifact from one project to another project. So you could say, for example, that your program management plan is related to a task in one of the sub-projects, and we will see that during our program management part of this demonstration. I'll move to the next part of my demonstration, which is about reporting and tracking. But before that, I would be interested to know that what is the preferred project management methodology for your organization, or even if you have a methodology of your own, primarily which of the options you see on your screen your methodology is based on. Use your poll button.
So thanks everyone. I can see that you're voting. That's really great. Just give you a few more minutes to submit your selection, and then we'll see the results. Okay. All right, looks like it's coming through on a strong 42% so far are saying PMI, followed by 35% combination of the above. I'm just going to close the poll now so you can all see the results. There we go there. Hammad, what do you think about that?
Pretty mixed and expected. So there are very few who use Agile alone, but then PMI and Prince2 seems to be the real leaders here. and no surprises here. The good news for you guys is that since SharePoint is pretty mature technology now, there are many vendors in the market out there who have ready SharePoint-based project management templates based on PMI or Prince2. And then since SharePoint is easy to configure and customize, even if you are using any combination of these methodologies, or if you have some tailor-made items for your organization, it's pretty easy to configure that. And this is something EPM partners is specialized in, and we can help you over there. So I'm going to move to the next part of this demonstration, which is about monitoring and control. We will see how teams could be added to the project mix, and then some of the reporting stuff and how processes could be built into.
Just before we go on to the next section, we've just had a question come through, if that's okay if we can read that one out. The question is, really interesting to see the capability for linking interdependencies between projects. Well, that's more like a comment, but it's good to see that everyone's enjoying your demonstration.
Yeah, that's good to know, and I'm pretty excited to show you that functionality as well. I think this is one of the major enhancements in SharePoint 2013. So I have only 3 sections of demos today. We are into the second one, and my third section is about program management, where I will specifically show you how we can link the tasks from different projects together. So we'll jump to demo again, and this time I want to show you that how our team members could be introduced into the project schedule. As you can see, there's a column called assigned to. So you could assign these tasks to your team member as long as they are part of your SharePoint tool. So for example, this particular task I want to assign to one of my colleagues, Dan. So all I need to do is to type his name over here. I could also assign a task to multiple resources. I just need to separate them by semicolon. So you could see one of the tasks has been assigned to 2 guys, whereas the other task has been assigned to Dan. These people would be able to see their tasks when they log into the system. One of the tasks has been assigned to trainee user, for example. Now, since I have assigned a task to this guy, obviously I want to come to this task and come to him to decide and see what kind of tasks have been assigned to him. And the first thing I need to do is to share my project site with this person. And that's pretty easy now. All I need to do is to click the share button. And I need to mention who that person is going to be. I'll say that it's going to be trainee user. And then I need to mention what kind of permission level they're going to get. I could also send them an email invitation so they would know that they have got access to a particular site. Let's say I just want to give them access of a team member. So while they would be able to see the content, they will be able to create more content. They won't be able to delete the stuff which I would have created. So this site have been created by trainee, and that person would be able to see what kind of tasks have been assigned to him. So for example, here I am logged in as trainee, and if I go to the site which we just created, I think it was called webinar project, yeah, and then if I go to the task list, I will be able to see all the tasks. But then if I say just show me my task, I can see that there's one particular task, creating issue and risk plan, which have been assigned to me, and then I'll be able to report on that.
That's fantastic, Hammad. And I've just had another question that's come through. Can the resourcing be integrated with other enterprise HR databases?
It is not available out of the box. You would probably require customization. Most of the advanced resource management options are available through Project Server, not just SharePoint alone, unless you use a third-party app. So I'll give you some more information around that when I come to the Project Server section. But the short answer is not out of the box.
Thanks, Hammad.
Thank you, Chantal. So
another question I have for you as well is there a place where I can see all my pending tasks together?
Okay, that's a very good question. So we saw that the trainee user had to log in to a particular project site. He had to come to a webinar project. just to see what kind of tasks have been assigned on this particular project. But in any typical organization, a person works on more than one project at a time, and it would be really convenient if they could see all the tasks across all the projects together. Good news is that SharePoint has a new service called Work Management Service. If you are implementing SharePoint 2013 on premises, and if you have this service configured, you can see all your work items together on a single page. If you are SharePoint Online customers, you have this service implemented for you already. And let me show you a quick example of that using my Office 365 tenant. So there's a project called Finance Project, and there's a task assigned to me. I am on-demand administrator, and there's a task assigned to me called Do All the Work. In addition to this finance project, there's another project called Construction Project. And within that construction project, I have two tasks assigned to me. So there are three tasks assigned to me across two different projects. Now, if I log into my tasks page in Office 365 or even SharePoint on premises, if you have Work Management Service enabled, I could see all my tasks gathered across on a single page. So I could see that there's one of my personal tasks created by myself on my tasks page. But in addition to that, there are two projects I'm working on, and there are three different tasks assigned to me. And directly from on this page, I could record the progress of these tasks. So I could say, for example, that this task is completed. And when I do that, in a few minutes, this will be updated back to my project site, and this task will be marked as 100% completed. Okay. Next thing I want to show you is that once your task has started to progress and you start recording the progress of those tasks, how you can start doing reporting on those tasks. One option is to use Project Professional. Project Professional 2013 has some really cool features around reporting within the Project Pro. So that's what I'm going to start first. But then we will also see how some of this reporting could be done without Project Pro. So I'll jump back to my original project, which was Webinar Project, and I'll open this project again in Project Pro. This project is already open there, but it is resyncing with the newest information which I have made. So you can see that now resources which I have assigned in my SharePoint are visible in my Project Pro screen as well. What I want to do is to start updating the progress. This is something which could have been done in SharePoint task list, but let's say I'm more comfortable in Project Pro, so I'm saying that certain task has been completed by 50%. If I want, I could also use advanced scheduling features. So I could say, for example, set a baseline for my project, and then I could compare the variance from my task, and these columns could also be shown in my SharePoint task list. So for example, according to my baseline, this task should have been finishing on 3rd of June, but my latest prediction is that instead of 3rd of June, this task will now finish on 10th of June, and I could see that there's a variation of 5 working days. So this is all typical project management features of Project Pro, but the important thing is that whether I update my progress in Project Pro or in my SharePoint task list, my calculation would still be valid in Project Pro, and this could be pushed back to SharePoint task list. Now, based on this project, I want to see the progress of my project, and this could be done using either available out-of-the-box report in Project 2013, or I could also create customized reports. Let me show you one of the available reports. For example, there's a report called Burn Down, really more commonly used by people who use Agile methodology. So I could see that in terms of number of tasks, I have 6 tasks left on 4th of August, and with the period of time, these tasks are going to decrease, and by 22nd of December, all my tasks would be done. Similarly, I could see other reports about what's the overview of work. I could see that 73% of all the project work is completed, 8.8 hours are still remaining, and 23 hours is the work I'm done. So you could just guess from that out of total 32 hours worth of work, since 23 hours are done, so this is almost 3/4 of my project is already completed. And there are then some charts and graphs around that information. Now I could export this information using the copy report button, and once it has been copied on my clipboard, I could paste it to the PowerPoint, share it with others over the email, etc. But this is still not an enterprise reporting tool for a couple of reasons. One, this is not browser-based, so anyone who wants to see that report, either they need to have project professional on their machine, or you as project manager need to copy that report, send it over email or PowerPoint, and then only then these people will be able to see those reports. Second thing is that you can't really do multi-project reporting here unless those projects are part of a program, which we'll see shortly. But let's say if you want to do your report across the entire portfolio of your projects, Project Professional is not really the tool for that. At this moment, I'm going to put my techie hat and show you some interesting technical stuff.
Just before you do that, Hammad, I've just had a question that's come through.
Yep.
Can SharePoint 2013 import existing project plans from various versions of Microsoft Project so that the NANT views are available online?
The best way to do that would be to import your project from Project 2010 to Excel first, because Project 2010 is not directly supported in SharePoint 2013. But once you export to Excel, any version of Excel, you could import it from Excel to SharePoint 2013. That way you could get your Gantt charts in SharePoint 2013.
That's fantastic. Thanks for responding to that one.
You're welcome, Chintal. Okay, what I want to show you is ability to access your project information in forms of data. The URL over here, as you could see, is my site name and then my project name. And this is giving me, this will take me to the home page of my project. But there's a bit of interesting bit over here. If I write underscore API, I will have a look at the full syntax, and then say /list, for example. This is going to return me an XML file with the information about all the SharePoint lists which are available in this particular project site. So this would be a list of risks, list of documents, list of decisions, etc. That's not what I'm interested in. I really want to get all my risks which have been entered in this particular site. So I would say you need to learn the syntax of OData. Fortunately, this is very commonly available over the internet, and it's not hard to learn, even if you're not a programmer, but someone who like to work with data frequently. So I'm saying that in my particular project site, get a list which name is risks and give me all the titles and status of those risk items. And what has happened as a result that I have received two items. One item is called shipping delays, and other item is called government change could impact stakeholder approval. Cool, but not very interesting, or not very usable in this form. But the great thing about this OData is that your Excel knows how to interpret this data and make it in more presentable form. So if I have an Excel installed on my computer, which I do, let's say it's a blank Excel, and I am saying that please retrieve all my data from my project site. Of course, I need to have sufficient permission to do this operation. So your site is still secure and safe. Not everyone can access all the data in Excel. So I'm saying, give me all my risks data in my project site, which is available through OData feed, and I'm giving the same URL which I did in my browser. And Excel has started using data model, and Excel needs to confirm that I have sufficient permissions to do that. And it is telling me that it has retrieved something called items. And I could create a pivot table out of it, but since it's not a very large set of data, probably a simple table will also do for me. And then you could see that I have received both these items in Excel. And this is a live connected data. So if somebody adds a third risk 3 days after today, when I will open this Excel sheet next time without doing anything on my part, just pressing this refresh button will bring in third, fourth, and fifth risk as well. So you got the idea over here. So this is good and available out of the box. However, you may also want to do your program or portfolio level reporting, which means that you may want to access information across multiple projects from multiple sites in SharePoint. It's not so simple out of the box, but fortunately Microsoft has another offering called SQL Integration Services, which helps you in retrieving data from multiple sites as a scheduled job, and then you can combine all of this data in a SQL database. Now, I don't want to get very technical and I want to show you all this stuff here, but once that job happens, I could show you what your end result could be. So once the data has been collected from multiple sites and all of this data would be residing in SharePoint and your project plans, you could effectively create something called Portfolio Status Report, which says the screen resolution is too low. Okay, let me try if I could change it. No, I can't. Okay, let me show you Project Status Report instead, and this one has opened properly. So this project status report and this information could be generated out of the information in your project site. This information could be stored in SharePoint list, and out of which, using SQL reporting tool, you could generate a project status report, an automated report, just at the click of a button. If we are more interested into see how these kind of reports could be generated, and in fact, if you want to have those reports being done for you, feel free to contact Chantal or myself after this webinar, and I could give you more information around that. But hopefully you got some idea around the reporting. And I will now jump to my last part of demonstration, and before that, our last poll for today. Since I want to show you program management, I would ask you what percentage of your projects are really managed as part of a program.
Okay, so thanks everyone for voting. It's really great to know that you're out there and listening to us today. And yeah, just keep them coming through. And again, if any of you have any questions or you'd like any more information on anything that we've talked about today, feel free to pop it in the questions box or my email or email me after the session. That would be great. Okay, so we'll just allow a few more seconds. Anyone else want to vote? Great, thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to close that one now and share the results. So what do you think of that, Hammad?
Again, no surprises here. A good majority use between 30 to 70% of their projects as part of the program. There are very few people who just do project management and no program management. And there are a fair bit of people who do all their projects as part of their programs. So this is encouraging for me. That means that what you're going to see in this demonstration would be quite relevant to what you do. Now, program is about using or managing multiple projects which are related in some way. And this is what I want to really show you, that how many projects could be done separately, but then could also be linked together as part of a program. So we just created a project site called Webinar Project, but let's say as part of this webinar project, I also want to create a presentation, and since it's a fairly technical presentation, I want to treat this as a sub-project of this particular project. One way to do this is to create a sub-site, which means that all the information of presentation project will be created within Webinar Project. So I could say that let me create a new sub-site, and this will be called Presentation Project. Again, I could pick a template for this particular site. This time, let's say, rather than starting from a big template which I created earlier, this time maybe I just want to start with a very blank project site template. So you still get the choice to pick your templates for sub-projects as well.
Now, Hammad, I've got a question that's come through. Can all SharePoint projects be exported to Excel in a typical resource usage view as per Microsoft Project Pro. So I'll just say that again. Can all SharePoint projects be exported into Excel in a typical resource usage view as per Microsoft Project Pro?
To export all your projects together in an automated fashion, I think the most optimal way is again to use OData feature, and I do a bit of custom routine to fetch all this information together in a database, and then display this information in an Excel. So out of the box, Excel only supports one project at a time. To do multiple projects together, you need to write a custom script which can go through all the project sites and retrieve all the information together.
Great. Thanks for answering that question, Hammad.
Okay. So my sub-project has been created, which is a presentation project, and I will create a very, very simple task list here. This time I will say I have 3 tasks, task 1, task 2, and task 3. Some dates here. That's about it. Again, this list could be accessed from Project Pro. So we can see that the same project, a sub-project can also be seen in a Project Pro in a Gantt chart view. But what I really want to see is my master project, my main project, which was a webinar project, and if I can see the impact of presentation project on my master project. So this is my master project, which is a webinar project. I will go back to my Gantt chart view, and let's say at this particular point, at task number 9, I want to insert a sub-project. This is Project Professional feature, and this still works if your projects have actually been created as SharePoint task list. So at this stage, I will say that I have a sub-project, and that sub-project is in a SharePoint site, so I need to know the URL of my site, and that URL is webinar project / presentation project. It's not mandatory to create it as a sub-site, but I have done it for convenience. And there's a folder called Site Assets, and this is where your project plan is automatically stored by the task list mechanism. Now what has happened on your screen that I have a sub-project being inserted from my master project. So I could see my overall project, this is the webinar project, and I could also see my sub-project within the Project Pro. And I could still do all the advanced scheduling of Project Pro which I wanted to do. Now if I save this project, it will allow me to sync both projects together, which is the main projects as well as sub-projects. For now I will just pick no over here. The important thing to notice over here that if I go back to my project site, in my main project, and if I have a look at task list, this task list will only show me the tasks from master project. So SharePoint task list does not support you showing the tasks from sub-projects. For this feature, you still need to go to Project Pro and see your sub-projects over there. However, the link between master and sub-project would be respected in SharePoint as well as Project Pro. So you don't need to do this stuff every single time you want to do it in Project Pro. Your synchronization mechanism will still work even though you will see only master project tasks in SharePoint task list. However, at this stage, I want to link one of my sub-project tasks to my main project task. This is how you create dependencies between multiple projects. And let me quickly show you that. So this is one of my project items, which is create weekly project status report. And I will open this item. And here I want to say that I want to relate this item with one of the other items. Now, interesting thing over here is that you can not only relate an item to another item in the same project, but it could also be an item in a different project. So in this particular case, I have a project called presentation project, which was my sub-project, and in that presentation project, I have a list of tasks, and I could link this with task 2. So now you can see that my task, which is creating weekly project status report, is actually related to another task called task 2, which is coming in from a different project. Now once you create these dependencies between tasks together in SharePoint, and once you do your custom routine of retrieving all the data from OData, what you could effectively do is create a report of deliverables and dependencies. So in this particular example, for example, I could see that I have a project called a new infrastructure in Sydney, and it has 2 tasks which are not related to any other project. But then there's another project called branch reconstruction, and it has 3 tasks, and these tasks are related to more than one task in a different project. And then I could see what would be the impact of these dependent tasks on each other. So this was a bit about the program management. Some of the stuff, especially around resource management, has been asked around in the questions. So I personally believe that if you require an enterprise class resource and portfolio management features, you may still be well off using Project Server. That's a product which is built on top of SharePoint. So everything you saw in this demonstration, you still get it. But then in addition to that, you get advanced portfolio analytics and selection, demand management, time sheeting, if that's what you are after, resource capacity planning, business intelligence of advanced level, and even if you want to do hybrid project management, so maybe you have project managers with different maturity levels. Some of those are comfortable with SharePoint, and some of those are advanced projects. Project Server does support that, where you could do reporting on your projects across different maturity levels. I'm going to skip the screenshots and directly take you to my last slide for today. Hope some of you have become excited, or some of you got some value out of this webinar today. But then I also want you to be aware of some of the pitfalls which I have very commonly seen across my customers over the last 3 years. As much as I like the fact that these tools, SharePoint and Project Server, are very flexible, you could even tailor your processes across these tools, and I don't mind that idea, although some purists are against it. These tools are not really an alternative or replacement to your process. So you have to have a process in place. This process could be tailored for the tool, or tool could be tailored for the process, but don't really expect tool to do the job for you if you really don't know how your project management should be done. You could start with some, say, industry best practices, but I haven't really seen a customer who have completed 100% of their project management requirements just by using the best practices. There's every time a need to have a tailor-made project management process according to the people, according to the organization, the specific needs of the organization, really. And then your project management is not really just the tool management. Tool is going to complement you around that, but your project management is also a lot of soft skills, negotiation, vendor management, stakeholder management. All of this could be recorded in your tool, but believe me, as a project manager, it's much more than tool. Some of the questions you asked me where I said the customization would be required, don't get trapped into creating the most perfect project management system where everything is automated, even if you have to start with a starting point where some of the stuff could be done manually or could not be done, could be done on paper. Just start using an information system tool. As you will learn the tool, you will find ways to enhance your tool in a better fashion, and you would still have some energy left to do that. With that, we are almost done with our time, and I'm done with my presentation as well. Kudos to myself to do it in prescribed time. Feel free to ask some questions. We still have a few minutes to answer that.
Yes, thanks so much for your time and sharing your information and knowledge. We really appreciate it. And now everybody, if you just have any questions for Hammad, he'd love to answer them. So just pop them in your question box on the right-hand panel. And if not, then we hope that if you have any questions later on down the track or in the next couple of weeks, feel free to email me. My email address will be in the follow-up email that's sent to you tomorrow. And would love to get back to you and give you assistance in your, I guess, project journey. So I don't have any questions that have come through just yet. I'll just give you a few more minutes, I guess, seconds perhaps, on the internet world. But again, just want to thank you all for taking the full hour to spend with us this afternoon. We really appreciate it, and we love sharing our knowledge. So thanks again. Oh, okay, I've got a couple of questions about the presentation. Absolutely, we will be. We've recorded the webinar today, so we'll be providing you all with a link with that tomorrow in an email, follow-up email tomorrow. If you'd like the presentation or the deck, then perhaps I'll see what I can do in organising to get that to you. So, okay, I've got another good question that's just come through here. At a high level, how does Office 365 specifically add value to implementing SharePoint as a project management and document management tool? Hammad, do you think you could answer that one for us?
Yes, absolutely. So in terms of functionality, at this point, there isn't much difference between Office 365 versus SharePoint on-premises. So the real advantage I feel for Office 365 is the low cost of entry, and then you could really start using it right from the day you made a decision about it, and then you could do experimentation over here, which is not always possible in an on-premises implementation of SharePoint. Another thing is that Office 365 have all the services integrated and configured together for you. So if you just want to see that how SharePoint in Office 365 works in tandem with Project Server or with Work Management Service or with Link, all of this is there already configured for you. In case of on-premises implementations, this sometimes takes weeks or even months to get it done by your IT team. Hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Hammad. And then we have another question here. Can we use the SharePoint for PMO?
Yes, absolutely. So SharePoint has very strong workflow features, which means that you could tailor your project sites for the processes around your PMO. You could also create your document templates as the best practices which you want to be followed for your PMO. You could create some custom reporting using a services partner, which helps for the tracking at the PMO level. And in addition to all of that, there are some partners who have ready SharePoint-based configurations available to be utilized as a PMO.
And just the add-on question to that one is, and also for implementation of methodology according to PMI?
Yes, absolutely. Probably if you contact me offline, I'll be able to share some links with you where some templates on SharePoint are available to be used projects as based on PMI methodology.
So Ridwan, what I'll do is I'll take down your email address, which I have, and send you through those links that Hammad's recommended. Well, that looks it for all the questions from everybody. So again, thanks again for participating. We really appreciate it, and we loved having you here this afternoon. And we look forward to hosting you at our next EPM Partners webinar. So thanks again, and have a great afternoon.